Hey everyone, Chaps here, and welcome to day 11 of our 2-week New Zealand adventure. As usual, if you missed the previous days, or you just want some additional background information, there's a playlist linked down below. So yesterday sucked, but today was a different story. Things actually went pretty well. To kick things off from the hotel, I actually woke up a little bit early, got on my laptop, and I was able to rebook days 12 through 15. You may remember that I actually booked the wrong nights for those hotels in Queenstown. So getting this squared away was a nice early win for the day. Around 8:30, we left the hotel room, and it's like we were just teleported to an entirely new world. We landed at night last time in Auckland, drove to our hotel. We couldn't really see much. But oh my god, stepping outside this morning, like I said, it was a new world. I don't know if I actually took a picture in the morning. I might just throw up a street view picture here so you guys can see. But it's gorgeous. Everywhere you look, just mountains. Mountains everywhere. And it sort of reminded me of like the Nevada, Arizona, and Utah like landscapes out in the national parks and stuff. So we had a lot of hiking to do today, but we were missing sunscreen, snacks, some water. Yeah, you remember the whole mix-up with our luggage and everything? Yeah, fun times. We didn't really want to wait for our luggage because it was going to delay a bunch of stuff. So we just took a quick stop over at New World next to the hotel and picked up some water, sunscreen, a couple snacks to have on our hike. So we stopped there, picked that up, and then started our 3-hour drive to the Mount Cook area. In the last video, I mentioned that I would discuss our rental car here a bit. It's a Suzuki, I think Vitara, however you pronounce that. And wow, I do not like this car. Maybe that will change, but not right now. I can't stand it. Future Chaps here. Car grew on me a little bit. Still would not buy one. Do not recommend. It feels really heavy when doing non-highway driving. The gauges, displays, and buttons are all far from optimal, and it just doesn't seem to work as well as I would have hoped. This one appears to have Android Auto, but no matter which cable we use, it keeps having an issue. Unlike the last car, this one does try to connect, but then disconnects, and reconnects, and disconnects, and so on. It's actually working the phone harder, so the phone gets warm and it drains the battery even when it's plugged in. Not ideal. To top all of that off, there's a few quality of life type things like lane assist, the curving like backup camera lines, proximity detection, and just a lot of things that I got used to on that Kia Sportage or my CR-V back at home. There's a lot of stuff that I got used to on what I'll say are nicer cars that this thing was lacking. That just made it really not ideal. Enough about the car though. It's not ideal, but we'll live. What a beautiful drive to Mount Cook. Just non-stop mountain views. It's crazy how different the landscape is between the North and the South Island. The North, as I've mentioned many times in the previous videos, is just rolling green hills non-stop, and then I guess some beach stuff as well. The South Island, at least where we are so far, is all mountainous. Also, I'll add that while driving, we received a very welcome call. The airline found our luggage, and they're going to ship it to our hotel, so we should have it later today. The drive into the Mount Cook area was breathtaking. And when we arrived, the parking lot was overflowing there were cars parked where they shouldn't be, and it was crazy. We actually had to park about 5 to 10 minutes down along the side of the entrance road. The first hike we did was the Hooker Valley Track, which we expected to take about 3 to 4 hours, probably closer to 3 for us because we're a little bit faster. And it's a pretty easy out and back hike without too much elevation change. Took us an hour and 15 to get out, a 10-minute lunch break at the end, and about an hour to get back. So 2:15 of actual hiking. Really not that bad. The views were pretty cool seeing the snow-capped mountains. Unfortunately, the views didn't really seem to change that much over the course of the hike. And there's a few cool views of streams when you cross any of the 3 swinging bridges, and a few new mountains appear as you turn a corner, but overall it didn't change much. While the mountains looked great, the water was a different story. We had expected bluer water based on some of the images online. Unfortunately, it was a boring gray color. I'll say it did rain a lot the previous couple of days, so maybe that was just some of the runoff water going down into the pools there, and it was muddying up the water a little bit. But I don't know, it didn't look that great for us. The next hike was Kea Point Track. It was a very short and easy hike that's supposed to take 30 minutes each direction. For us, it took 20, and we took a really nice, relaxing 5 to 10 minute break on a bench near the end. During the hike itself, you don't really get to see too much in terms of views. You're basically getting closer and closer to the mountain that you see from the parking lot. Near the end, you take a turn though, and things open up for some great views. A local man was there, and he mentioned that he loves this hike. It's easy, has great views, and it's usually pretty empty. With the Hooker Valley Track being right next door, most people aren't going on this one. And you know what? I would tend to agree with him. If I was to give a suggestion of hikes in this area, it would be do the first 10 minutes of Hooker Valley until you hit that first viewpoint, and then go to the Kea Point Track and save yourself a few hours of crowded trails. I'll also note that I really only suggest this if you're going to be in this Mount Cook area to begin with, or if you're doing something like us where you're driving from Queenstown and heading up north. Like, the views were cool, but they're not really worth the drive out there just to see those views and then head back or continue on if it's too far out of your way. If you aren't heading up that way, it might be worth going to the west coast and checking out the glaciers instead. And speaking of heading up north, how would you pronounce this? If you're Caroline and I, then you're probably thinking Tekapo. Apparently, it's Tekapo, and that's exactly where we're headed. It's a 1-hour drive north to Lake Tekapo. The start of that drive, leaving that Mount Cook area, had some amazing views of the mountains and the ranges along the lake. You then transition to some pretty barren lands, and it's sort of just deserty and empty. Eventually, Lake Tekapo just sort of like appears out of nowhere, and I'll explain that a little bit in the future here. Upon arrival at the hotel, which by the way was Pepper's Blue Water Resort, we received a free upgrade to a Lakeview suite. We had originally just booked a hotel room, and wow, this thing was like an apartment. We didn't even use 3/4 of the space. And I'll also mention that while we were checking in, I heard a bunch of other people getting free upgrades as well, so maybe they just had a bunch of empty rooms. I don't know. On a slightly sadder note, our luggage hadn't arrived yet. We were kind of hoping it would be at the hotel when we got there, because it was like almost 5 or 6 o'clock at this point. I called, and apparently the luggage wasn't going to be there until close to 8:30, but better late than never, I guess. So why did we go to Tekapo, I guess is a question some might be asking. And, why did we make the drive up here? We're taking an entire day to go up here. Well, it was for stargazing. It's supposed to be one of the best places in the world for stargazing, outside of, Antarctica. The town is designed to be fairly free of light pollution. It's well hidden, hence the town's sort of sneaking up and appearing out of nowhere when you're driving there. And it gives off very little light pollution, and all the buildings are designed to give off very little light pollution. It's also on the southern island of New Zealand, making it pretty close to the South Pole, potentially allowing you to see the southern lights. Around 8:45, we headed to the Church of the Good Shepherd, apparently a very common place for stargazers. We showed up and walked out onto a rock beach of the lake and found a large rock with a flat surface around a 30-degree angle, and it was actually perfect to lay back on and stare up at the stars. Some notes for people who are looking at doing this themselves. Number 1, bring some warm clothing. Even if it's nice out during the day, it can get a little chilly at night, especially out on that beach, so just bring something to keep you warm. 2, plan a couple of days for this if you really care about the stargazing. Our day happened to be perfect. There was one small cloud in the sky near the beginning, and then it went away, and it was a perfectly clear sky. But we kind of lucked out on that one, so maybe plan for a couple of days. 3 is you can actually check the aurora forecast on NOAA's website. I'll have that link down below. For us, it kind of sucked. The aurora wasn't strong enough and going far enough north for us to really see it. It was something I was really hoping to see, but we just didn't get to see it. And number 4, this is a really big one for us, was check the moon schedule. I know that's hard to think about and check when you're planning a vacation so far in advance, but just check the moon schedule if you can. I hadn't even thought of this, but we had a full moon. It was basically a full moon when we were there, and it kind of ruined part of the sky. It was so bright that on this empty beach with no light pollution anywhere, we could see clearly, and we had shadows. We had shadows on this, well-defined shadows on this rocky beach at 11 p.m. It was kind of nuts. It really just sort of dimmed out part of the sky. Once the sun set though, a portion of the sky got super dark, very clearly seeing the stars, and it was great. I personally spend about a week on Seneca Lake in northwest New York every year, and the experience here at Tekapo was very similar to what I get laying out on a dock late at night on those trips. Very little light pollution, and you can see so many stars. You're often going to see satellites and shooting stars, and it's great. the big kicker for us, especially on this trip, was the moon. We just hadn't planned for it. It was so bright that it was hard for our eyes to really properly dilate, and it just washed out a large portion of the sky for us. Oh well, it was a nice peaceful place to relax, and we learned about some things to look out for in the future if we decide to go stargazing again. And with that said, that was our first full day on the South Island, and it's come to a close. That's 11 days down and 5 to go. Tomorrow, we're planning to tackle Isthmus Peak, which is supposed to be a fantastic hike. So subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss that. We are going to be trying one of the famous burger places, so hopefully we do that tomorrow, and maybe check back for that as well. Also, if you have questions, as usual, just head down to the comments, leave a comment there. I'll try and respond to it, or hit me up on Twitter, and I'm usually pretty quick to respond there. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.